Today we're diving deep into a component that's often overlooked but is absolutely crucial for the health and longevity of your car's automatic transmission, the transmission filter. Now, most of us are pretty good about remembering our engine oil filters and air filters, right? They're common maintenance items. But the transmission filter? It often gets forgotten, and that can lead to some serious, and seriously expensive, problems down the road. Think of it like this: your transmission fluid is the lifeblood of your transmission, and the filter is like its kidney, cleaning out impurities. If that kidney gets clogged, well, you can imagine the trouble. So, in this video, we're going to break down the telltale signs that your transmission filter might be clogged or failing. Recognizing these symptoms early can save you a ton of headaches and money. We'll also talk about how often you should be thinking about this filter and what it might cost to replace. Ready to become a transmission filter expert? Let's get started. Alright, let's jump into the first, and often most direct, sign that your transmission filter needs attention. Number 1. Contaminated transmission fluid. First up, contaminated transmission fluid. This one is pretty straightforward. Healthy automatic transmission fluid, ATF, is typically a bright, translucent red color. It should also be relatively smooth to the touch. Over time, as your transmission does its job, tiny metal shavings from gears, particles from clutch materials, and other debris can accumulate in the fluid. That's where the filter comes in. Its job is to catch these contaminants. But if the filter gets old and clogged, it can no longer do its job effectively. These particles then continue to circulate, and the fluid itself starts to break down. So, what will you see? If you check your transmission fluid, and not all cars have an easily accessible dipstick for this anymore, so check your owner's manual, and it looks dark brown, murky, or even black, that's a huge red flag. If it feels gritty between your fingers or has a burnt smell, which we'll talk more about later, that's even worse. A clogged filter is a primary reason for this. The fluid isn't being cleaned, and it's essentially carrying around all that gunk, which accelerates wear and tear on all those intricate transmission components. So, if you see that dark, dirty fluid, it's definitely time to investigate the filter and plan for a fluid and filter change. Number 2. Whirring or whining noises. Next on our list, whirring or whining noises, especially when your car is in gear or as you accelerate. Now, a quick note for manual transmission drivers. Most manual gearboxes don't actually have a serviceable transmission filter in the same way automatics do. So, if you're hearing strange noises in a manual, it's likely a different issue. But for those of us with automatic transmissions, if you start hearing a distinct whirring, whining, or even a humming sound that seems to correspond with engine RPM or when the transmission is working, it could be a sign of a clogged filter. Think about it. The transmission has a pump that circulates the fluid. If the filter is clogged, the pump has to work much harder to try and suck fluid through that blockage. It's like trying to drink a super thick milkshake through a very thin straw. You'll hear that straining sound. This can lead to fluid starvation in certain parts of the transmission, causing those noises and, more importantly, inadequate lubrication and cooling. So, if you hear these new, unusual sounds, don't ignore them. Your transmission might be crying out for help because of a clogged filter. Number 3. Rattling noises. Symptom number 3 is rattling noises. This one can be a bit tricky because rattles can come from many places, but if it seems to be coming from the transmission area, especially when the car is idling in gear or during shifts, a failing filter could be involved. There are a couple of ways this can happen. First, if the filter itself has become loose or damaged internally, perhaps a component inside the filter housing has broken, it might physically rattle around. This is more common with certain types of cartridge filters. More concerningly, if the filter has been clogged for a while and isn't catching contaminants, those metal shavings and debris we talked about earlier are now circulating freely within the transmission. These hard particles can get caught in moving parts, or simply accumulate in the transmission pan and rattle around. If you're hearing rattling and you suspect the transmission, it's a serious sign. It often means that damage might already be occurring to the transmission's internal components because the filter isn't doing its job. This is one of those symptoms where prompt attention is absolutely critical to prevent much more expensive repairs. Number 4. Unusual smells. Okay, let's talk about your nose. Symptom number 4 is unusual smells, particularly a burning odor. If you start to notice a smell like burnt toast, acrid chemicals, or just a general hot, burning smell coming from your car, and you can't pinpoint it to the brakes or engine oil, it could be your transmission fluid overheating. Why does this happen? Well, as we've established, a clogged transmission filter restricts the flow of transmission fluid. This fluid isn't just for lubrication, it's also crucial for cooling the transmission. If the flow is restricted, the transmission can start to overheat. When ATF gets too hot, it begins to break down chemically, losing its lubricating properties, and, yes, it starts to burn. This burning fluid produces a very distinct and unpleasant smell. If you catch a whiff of this, it's a serious warning. Overheated and burnt fluid can rapidly damage the sensitive clutches, seals, and metal components inside your transmission. A new filter and fresh fluid are essential, but you'll also want to make sure no permanent damage has occurred due to the overheating. Number 5. Leaks. Symptom number 5 is a classic: leaks. If you see reddish fluid, that's the typical color of ATF, on your driveway or garage floor, you've got a transmission fluid leak. Now, leaks can happen for various reasons: a cracked pan, a loose drain plug, or failing seals. But a clogged transmission filter can also be a culprit, or at least a contributing factor. Here's how: when the filter is severely clogged, the transmission fluid can't pass through it easily. This creates a backup and an increase in pressure within the transmission system. This excess pressure has to go somewhere, and it will often find the weakest point, which could be a gasket, like the transmission pan gasket, or a seal. The increased pressure can force fluid past these seals, leading to a leak. So, if you find a leak, it's important to not just fix the leak itself, like replacing a gasket, but also to investigate why it started leaking. If a clogged filter caused the pressure buildup, simply replacing the gasket without addressing the filter means you'll likely have the same problem again soon. Always consider the filter when you're dealing with a transmission fluid leak. Number 6. Problems shifting gears. And finally, a very noticeable and often alarming symptom: problems shifting gears. Your automatic transmission relies on precise hydraulic pressure, supplied by the transmission fluid, to engage gears smoothly and efficiently. If that fluid can't flow freely because of a clogged filter, you're going to experience shifting issues. What might this feel like? You could notice delayed engagement. When you shift from park into drive or reverse, there might be a long pause before the gear actually engages. So, there you have it, 6 key signs that your transmission filter might be waving a red flag. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe for more car care tips and tricks. If you have any questions or experiences with transmission filters, drop them in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.